Namaste, and welcome to our continuing series on the synthesis of yoga with our beloved Ranga. We are in the yoga of divine works. The chapter is the sacrifice and the Lord of the sacrifice, and we're beginning with the sentence, this extreme opposition of view from the two poles of one existence.
We will read the para, but before reading the para, I'll
Brief
a summary of the previous paragraph so that we get the sense of continuity. Okay, so the previous paragraph, this is the previous paragraph, I'm saying of the previous paragraph. The previous paragraph has elaborated on the impersonal aspect of the divine, which is the first experience on the spiritual planes, which are the higher mind, illumined mind, intuitive mind, and overmind. So there you have the experience of the impersonal aspect of the divine. It is a spiritual experience which is not available to the ordinary man in the field of ignorance and multiplicity. At our level, that's not available. But the common man, when he conceives of God, it is usually the personal aspect as that of a king governing his kingdom. When he thinks of God, it's usually in the form of like a king who is governing his kingdom. So, the only difference between the two is that man's conception attributes omnipotence, omniscience, and omnipresence to God. This is not extended to the human king.
To the
human king.
Human king.
The human king is not these
He's not
three
omnipotent,
things.
right.
He is limited. Sri Aurobindo says that this human conception of the divine is actually an intuition deeply seated in the heart that the personality of the divine, with all its correlated ideas of consciousness, life, soul, is not something fleeting and transient. All forms, limited personalities with specific characteristics are subject to transience and temporality. That's my own word. But God with a finite form is as valid a conception and experience as is God without form and limits. There is certainly something fundamentally true about the personality of God. It is this intuition that is related to universal evolution and the aim of human existence. Note carefully that Sri Aurobindo is saying that the personal aspect of the divine is a fact, whereas many philosophies say there is no such thing as a personal God. There is only the impersonal aspect of the divine. So he is going fundamentally opposite to many religions and philosophies. Personality justifies the aim of life in the world in spite of its imperfection, suffering, and ignorance. The journey to a final God reality explains the purpose of life on earth in the spiritual journey. Man encounters a consciousness and a personality which have tremendous value. Behind all inanimate forms, the presence of a conscious being is felt, seen, realized. A vibrant consciousness pervades the apparently unconscious physical world. At the very summit of the divinity, at the very summit is the divinity with a very clear personality, but without limits. All impersonal planes have living beings in them, including a representative or leader or king. Every species has a leader, representative of that collectivity. Okay? Impersonality is a spiritual truth indicating freedom from limitation and finite forms. Personality is the obverse, complementary aspect of the same truth indicating consciousness, proximity, intimacy, love. These things may not be there in the impersonal. Proximity, intimacy, love. Okay? Then both impersonality and personality are truths of the spirit. This is what he said in the previous one.
So, in the animal kingdom, what is the symbol of it? Is it the genius of the species?
There is a representative leader in each herd.
Yeah.
So exactly as kings are there in kingdoms, in the species also there is usually a leader. So that's a personal aspect. And then the general collectivity is the impersonal aspect. So, for instance,
I thought that Mother called it the genius of the species.
yes, that's right. For instance, she had once a discussion with the serpent king. And the serpent king wanted to make a pact with her. And he told Mother, I promise not to hurt any of your subjects, but you must also promise that none of your subjects will harm me. The mother said, I'm sorry, but I don't have that sort of control over 2,000 people. So I can't enter into that. I can't guarantee that somebody from those who are my devotees will not kill you. I cannot guarantee that. So it fell through. Okay. There are other also, for instance, in the white ants, there is a queen and
Yes.
a large one like that. Okay. Then in the bees world also, in monkeys, there is always a leader. Okay. So this is what he's saying, personality and impersonality. All the impersonal forces in the world, like we discussed that last time, all the impersonal forces in the physical world or even in the other worlds have representative personalities. The sea, there is Varuna, who looks at that. The mind plane has got Indra. Okay? The water is represented also by a king, the Marut. Okay? So wealth is an impersonal force. There is Kubera, who is a king of wealth. So all these personalities live in the overmind plane of consciousness. These are the kings. Gods, they call them.
And I was reading in the Gita that when Krishna is speaking, he says that the Lord accepts whatever anyone offers.
Yes.
They may be religious.
Yes.
They may be non-religious.
Oh, yes. But then the response will be in kind.
Ah, good point. Yes.
The response will be in kind.
Very
Why?
good.
It's not a business deal. It is that you are opening yourself to a certain level. And the amount of opening you give, he can only pour that much into your opening.
Ah, very good.
So that is the thing. So we start reading today what we have to read today. Okay, so this extreme opposition of view is the personality and the impersonality. Okay, so this extreme opposition of view from the two poles of one existence creates no fundamental difficulty for the seeker of the integral yoga. No problem at all. Both are realities, impersonality as well as personality. For his whole experience has shown him the necessity of these double terms and their currents of energy, negative and positive, in relation to each other, for the manifestation of what is within the one existence. For himself, personality and impersonality have been the two wings of his spiritual ascension, and he has the prevision that he will reach a height where their helpful interaction will pass into a fusion of their powers and disclose the integral reality and release into action the original force of the divine. Now, this is a very interesting paragraph, and we have to see the implication behind. He is saying there is no fundamental difficulty for the seeker of the integral yoga. He is keeping it very vague. Okay, seeker of the integral yoga. Now he is saying for himself. for the seeker of the integral yoga. But it is biographical. He is talking of his own experience very clearly. Okay, so for himself, he could have said, for myself also, he could have said. But he is saying this in a very general way. Personality and impersonality have been the two wings of his spiritual ascension. I'll stop here. We'll go and look into why he is saying that. First of all, his entry into the spiritual life began with the impersonal aspect of the divine. He sat in Baroda in meditation with Lile, and he had the impersonal aspect. Okay? He entered into the Brahman consciousness, the self, which is static and impersonal. Then, in jail when he is there, he is seeing Sri Krishna himself, guiding him in everything. That's a personality. So obviously he is referring to himself very clearly. Okay, so in fact he says something very interesting in the Uttarpada speech. He says that the very bars of the cell in which I was there, I was seeing Sri Krishna as the cell, bars of the cell. When I am going and the sun is he was allowed to go out sometimes and walk in the yard. And he says that when I went under the shade of the tree, it was Sri Krishna who is giving me the shade. Not the tree, but Sri Krishna. So, the personal aspect of the divine, he is saying that. Then also even more detailed, the Gita, the significance of the Gita was revealed to Sri Ramdu in jail by Sri Krishna himself. Then again, when he was in Calcutta, he is hearing clearly a voice which he says he recognized. Again Sri Krishna telling him, go to Chandranagar. And again a second repetition, go to Pondicherry. Very clearly, the clairaudience. He is hearing clearly the voice of Sri Krishna. So, personality and impersonality. Okay, so for himself, personality and impersonality have been the two wings of his spiritual ascension, and he has a prevision that he will reach a height where their helpful interaction will pass into a fusion of their powers and disclose the integral reality and release into action the original force of the divine. We'll have a look at this exactly what he's saying. He's saying, each word we will identify what he's saying. For himself, personality, impersonality, that we have discussed, have been the two wings. Have been the two wings of his spiritual ascension. Now that's a very interesting image. His soul is very often described as a bird. So the bird is flying up, his soul is flying up, the two wings, personal and impersonal. There is a hidden metaphor there. Okay, so he will reach a height where their helpful interaction will pass into a fusion of their powers. So, the fusion of the powers of impersonality and personality, Purusha, Prakriti, consciousness and force can occur only at the supramental level. That's the height that he is talking about. Okay, the integral reality. Integral reality. And release into action the original force of the divine. In the spiritual planes of consciousness, you don't have the power, transformative power of your body-mind life. But here at the third level, you are able to release into action. It becomes effective. Into action the original force of the divine. And which is the original force of the divine? The Shakti. So very clearly he is saying supramental world. Okay, so not only in the fundamental aspects, but in all the workings of his sadhana, he has felt this double truth and mutually complementary working. An impersonal presence has dominated from above or penetrated and occupied his nature. So he wrote this before the 26th November experience of the Sri Krishna descending into him. But he's already foreseen that. See, he's saying, an impersonal presence has dominated from above and penetrated and occupied his nature into his body-mind life. Okay, a light descending has suffused his mind, life power, the very cells of his body, illumined them with knowledge, revealed him to himself, down to his most disguised and unsuspected movements. Which are they? The physical forms, the most disguised and unsuspected forms, exposing, purifying, destroying, or brilliantly changing all that belong to the ignorance. The ignorance is the not seeing the divine presence everywhere. It is brilliantly showing him that the divine presence is there everywhere. Okay, so in the most disguised. Which is the most disguised and unsuspecting movement? Most disguised, even a stone. The divine is there hiding. Okay, and unsuspecting movements, even in ill will, even in the opposites of the what you call evil. Even there is the divine lurking.
Jealousy.
Also, all these things, the divine is there.
Yes, yes.
They are only distortions.
Yes. And it's all the lower nature.
Yeah. So, because unsuspecting movements exposing, purifying, destroying, or brilliantly changing all that belong to the ignorance. A force has poured into him in currents or like a sea, worked in his being and all its members, dissolved, new made, reshaped, transfigured everywhere. Okay. Now this dissolved, new made, reshaped, transfigured everywhere is an experience which is common to most yogis. Okay. The body undergoes changes. You can see your own psychological traits also disappearing. Sri Aurobindo says that when I was a child, I was afraid of the dark. So there was a little bit of cowardice in me. But later on that disappeared completely in Calcutta when he was carrying on the revolutionary movement. So complete. So he's saying dissolved, new made, reshaped, transfigured everywhere. We can be more specific. Before 1920, he was dark, okay, and his features also were there, quite different. If you see the mugshot in the Calcutta Alipur jail, when the police mugshot is there are even pock marks because he had a touch of smallpox. But later on, 1950 picture, you see no marks at all. And his color changed entirely. In 1922, 1921-22, the color of his skin changed completely. Then he even speaks of the hair not needing oil. Okay? The shape of his toenails changing.
Yes.
So all these things. So with these details, you'll understand what he's saying. Okay? Dissolved, new made, reshaped, transfigured everywhere. So clear the words. Okay? So a bliss has invaded him and shown that it can make suffering and sorrow impossible and turn pain itself into divine pleasure. A love without limits has joined him to all creatures or revealed to him a world of inseparable intimacy and unspeakable sweetness and beauty, and begun to impose its law of perfection and its ecstasy even amidst the disharmony of terrestrial life. A spiritual truth and right have convicted the good and evil of this world, of imperfection or of falsehood, and unveiled a supreme good and its clue of subtle harmony and its sublimation of action and feeling and knowledge. So everywhere, action, feeling and knowledge, everything is transformed.
And the word convicted
Yeah.
is very important.
Very
here.
important, very interesting.
So the truth and right
Yeah.
have convicted the
Convicted
good
what?
and evil of this world.
That's right. So what does it mean? When you convict somebody, you say that your falsehood has been confirmed. I am condemning you. Okay? I am putting you in. So truth is saying that the falsehood is false. It is accusing him of falsehood. So it is the truth which is convicting him.
Yes.
It's like a judge which is convicting a prisoner and saying, I confirm what you are. So the judge is saying to the you are going to be punished. So the evil is going to be punished by the presence of truth. Very interesting word he's using.
Yes.
Just one word and he brings the whole image.
Yes.
So this is an example of also how he uses images. In Savitri, almost every line is an image.
Yes.
So, have convicted the good, and also he uses another word like convicted. He also uses the word absolved. To absolve means, suppose a prisoner is brought in front of a judge and is declared to be innocent of the accusation that he has been charged with.
He's absolved.
He is absolved. You are free of the accusation. So, evil is absolved of its negativity. Truth is taking over. So, that's what he means. Okay. And unveiled the supreme good. Unveiled the supreme good in the evil. The evil, the veil is removed and you see only the good there. It's only the outer nature which is with the outer veil that is covering, and you see it as evil. But behind all these and in them, he has felt a divinity who is all these things, a bringer of light, a guide, an all-knower, a master of force, a giver of bliss, friend, helper, father, mother, playmate in the world game, an absolute master of his being, his soul's beloved and lover. All relations known to human personality are there in the soul's contact with the divine, but they rise towards the superhuman levels and compel him towards the divine nature. Okay. The divine nature is usually attributed to the Karma Yoga, and we are in that section only where we are dealing with the works of life. So, we'll see that last sentence again carefully. But behind all these, behind the evil, behind the imperfection, behind the falsehood, okay, behind, there's a veil, and behind that is all these, and in them he has felt a divinity who is all these things. All which things? A bringer of light, a guide, an all-knower, a master of force, a giver of bliss, friend, helper, father, mother, playmate. All the words are pointing to personality and not impersonality. Very clear. So, all relations known to human personality are there in the soul's contact with the divine. Okay? But they rise towards the superhuman levels and compel him towards the divine nature. So, in other words, human relations have love but also hate. Human relations have attraction but also repulsion. So you can apply all this to the divine also, but slowly he will guide you and change all these things.
All relations.
Yeah, all the relations. It's very interesting, these relations, what relation you can have. Usually it's son and father, mother and son. Okay, these are all the relations possible. Normally you see the divine as your father or your guide or your friend. But it's very rare to see the divine as your own child. It's rare. There's one case in Ramakrishna's life where there was an old lady, very poor lady, okay, and she had the experience of Sri Krishna as her child. So it's a very interesting story, and they used to call her Gopalar Ma. Gopal is Sri Krishna, Sri Krishna's mother. And that experience lasted for her for about 6 months. And then it slowly dissolved and went away. And she was miserable. And she came crying to Ramakrishna and told him, why has it gone away? So he had to explain to her that human imperfection cannot hold this forever the first time. It's an experience that comes. Afterwards, it becomes a realization if you pursue it solidly. So, all the relations he is talking about. In fact, in our Indian scriptures, we have enmity with God. Okay, so there are scriptures where they say that. So, in fact, it is said that Ravana, okay, He was a great tapasvi. He was a great. He had the capacity of concentration and tapasya. Okay, but he was given a choice. So, if you are a friend of the divine and follow that path, you will take 5. I'm exaggerating, but this is the basic idea. You will get your liberation in 15, 20 lives. But if you take the path of the enemy of the divine, you will achieve it in 3 or 4 lives.
Whoa.
So he chose to be killed by the divine. So Rava. So I mean, it only explains that whatever relation you have with the divine will ultimately lead you there. We shouldn't take this very literally, but it only illustrates the point that all relations are possible with the divine. And that's what Swami is saying. Even enmity.
Yeah.
A very interesting paragraph, what we read just now. It is an integral knowledge that is being sought, an integral force, a total amplitude of union with the all and infinite behind existence. For the seeker of the integral yoga, no single experience, no one divine aspect, however overwhelming to the human mind, sufficient for its capacity, easily accepted as the soul or the ultimate reality, can figure as the exclusive truth of the eternal. For him, the experience of the divine oneness, carried to its extreme, is more deeply embraced and amply fathomed by following out to the full experience of the divine multiplicity. All that is true behind polytheism as well as behind monotheism falls within the scope of his seeking. But he passes beyond their superficial sense to human mind to grasp the mystic truth in the divine. He sees what is aimed at by the jarring sects and philosophies and accepts each facet of the reality in its own place, but rejects their narrowness and narrownesses and errors and proceeds further till he discovers the one truth that binds them together. The reproach of anthropomorphism and anthropolatry cannot deter him, for he sees them to be prejudices of the ignorant and arrogant reasoning intelligence, the abstracting mind turning on itself in its own cramped circle. If human relations as practiced now by man are full of smallness and perversity and ignorance, yet are they disfigured shadows of something in the divine, and by turning them to the divine, he finds that of which they are a shadow and brings it down for manifestation in life. It is through the human exceeding itself and opening itself to a supreme plenitude that the divine must manifest itself here, since that comes inevitably in the course and process of the spiritual evolution. And therefore, he will not despise or blind himself to the Godhead because it is lodged in a human body. Manushim tanim ashritam. This is from the Gita. Beyond the limited human conception of God, he will pass to the one divine eternal, but also he will meet him in the faces of the gods, his cosmic personalities supporting the world play, detect him behind the mask of the vibhutis, embodied world forces or human leaders, reverence and obey him in the Guru, worship him in the avatar. This will be to him his exceeding good fortune if he can meet one who has realized or is becoming that which he seeks for, and can, by opening to it in this vessel of its manifestation, himself realize it. For that is the most palpable sign of the growing fulfillment, the promise of the great mystery of the progressive descent into matter, which is the secret sense of the material creation and the justification of terrestrial existence. Beautiful para. Okay, so
Yeah, especially that ending. Would that
yeah,
be to you the meeting of Vivekananda with Sri Aurobindo
yeah.
or Lily,
No, I didn't follow.
Bhaskar Lily?
Ah,
These things would be concurrent with what he says.
yes.
If he can meet one who has realized or is becoming.
Yeah, but he's not talking of Lele. He's not talking of Lele because Lele did help him. But
did.
He didn't take him as a guru, but he took him as a representative of the divine.
Yeah, and that's what I feel in this.
That's right.
Yeah. Anyone who could help him in any way.
Yeah. So that even an ordinary human being, he's saying that, okay, you have to take him as a representative of the divine, not look for his defects. This is what many human beings do. Okay, they find fault with a human guru. But that's not what you should do. You should take him as a representative of the divine and you will be benefited.
So, sentence by sentence?
Yeah. It is an integral knowledge that is being sought by the integral seeker, not everybody. Okay, it's an integral knowledge that is being sought, an integral force, a total amplitude of union with the all and infinite behind existence. So he is very clear here. If you contrast, then you understand what he's saying. In an integral, it is an integral knowledge that is being sought, an integral force. The Mayavadin and the Buddhists are not seeking for force. They are not interested in force. They are interested only in peace and liberation. So when you contrast it, then you understand the importance of what he's saying here. Okay, so a total amplitude of union with the all and infinite behind existence. Total amplitude means union at the higher level, union at the lower level. Whereas the Mayavadins are rejecting the union at the lower level. Don't identify yourself with body, mind, life. That's falsehood. But simply saying, no, that's what we have to do. See the divine even here and transform it. So, union with the total amplitude of union with the all and infinite behind existence. For the seeker of the integral yoga, no single experience, no one divine aspect, however overwhelming to the human mind, sufficient for its capacity, easily accepted as the soul or the ultimate reality, can figure as the exclusive truth of the eternal. This is what the mistake is made by religions. You can go through to the divine only through Christ or only through Islam or only through Allah. So these are exclusive. But the integral yoga says no exclusivity at all. We reject all exclusivity. It should be inclusivity. You can approach the divine through any way and any method. Absolutely wide. Okay, so for him, the experience of the divine oneness carried to its extreme is more deeply embraced and amply fathomed by following out to the full experience of the divine multiplicity. The divine is here also in the physical world of multiplicity. Behind all the multiple forms, you have to see the divine. Whereas the others are mostly rejecting. And if I feel that the Brahmic consciousness is enough, you go to level 2 of the spiritual planes, you are more than satisfied. He is mentioning that. Okay? However overwhelming to the human mind, sufficient for its capacity, easily accepted as a soul and ultimate reality. When you feel that this is the ultimate reality. The Brahmic consciousness. But that's not, you need not stop there, you can go on. That's a mistake that many people make, including Jiddu Krishnamurti and many others who say that God with a personal form doesn't exist. It's your own imagination. So M. is contradicting that.
But with such a brilliant mind, He could not open to God as a personal form.
No, that's exactly the point. When you experience something, it is so unbelievably satisfying that the sense of completeness is there. And you're not interested in anything else. If I look for something else, I might lose this. Why should I lose it? So you stay put there. That's what happens. So now he's saying all that is true behind polytheism as well as monotheism. This was a huge issue for the German Indologists when they came, and they could not. Monotheism is the one divine reality, but in India we have so many gods. But the gods are inferior. All the Hindu religions do believe in monotheism. Vedanta philosophy is monotheistic. There is only one ultimate reality. But there are many gods. That's polytheism. Polytheism does exist in many primitive religions. Okay? There are gods. God for water, God for rain, God for this, God for that. There are so many gods. But they are at an inferior level. So they invented a new word, henotheism, which allows for both polytheism and monotheism. Okay, so
and pantheism?
Pantheism is seeing God in nature. In fact, nature itself is God. It's divine. All that is true behind polytheism as well as monotheism falls within the scope of his seeking. So he will not reject either of them. He will accept both. But he passes beyond their superficial sense to human mind to grasp their mystic truth in the divine. He sees what is aimed at by the jarring sects and philosophies and accepts each facet of the reality in its own place. All religions, all views have got their truth. It may be partial truth, but there's a truth in everything they say. That's what he's saying. And finds it has a place where it is valid. He sees what is aimed at by the jarring sects and philosophies and accepts each facet of the reality in its own place, but rejects their narrownesses and errors and proceeds farther till it discovers the one truth that binds them together. And this you can find in the overmind plane of consciousness. If you get stuck at the higher mind, illumined mind, intuitive mind, there can be differences and jarring sects. But the overmind level, you can see that each of these things have their truth at the overmind level. They are different at the overmind level. There are differences, but they are not absolutely jarring. They are, you can understand. But you go to supermind, they are all one. Okay, so one truth that binds them together. The reproach of anthropomorphism and anthropolatry. So, anthropomorphism is the extension of human nature to that which is not human. It could be God or it could even be animals. Okay? So, if man has love and hate, jealousy and envy, but also sympathy, all these can be transferred to animals. We have Aesop's fables, and in India we have Panchatantra. All these two moral stories are told through animals. Okay? Even the famous example of that, the hare and the tortoise.
Yes.
So that also is same. You are attributing human qualities to animals. But when you attribute them to God, God is made in the image of human beings. He is also like a king. Okay. So that's anthropomorphism. But anthropolatry is the other one. That is attribution of divine qualities to human beings. Christianity denies that. You are born in sin.
Yeah.
You are a sinner to begin with. But the Vedanta says you are divine to begin with. You are covered up with falsehood. Get rid of the falsehood, but you are divine. So anthropolatry and anthropomorphism, okay, so cannot deter him, for he sees them to be prejudices of the ignorant and arrogant reasoning intelligence. the abstracting mind turning on itself in its own cramped circle. So all these ideas are, when you stay put in them, cramped circle. Don't get cramped. Release yourself into the open and consider all possibilities. That's what Swami is saying. If human relations as practiced now by man are full of smallness and perversity and ignorance, yet are they disfigured shadows of something in the divine, and by turning them to the divine, he finds that of which they are a shadow and brings it down for manifestation in life. So, in fact, one example will make it very clear. He says that all error is a handmaiden of truth, because error will lead you to the truth. When you make an error and you realize it's an error, you know there's an error, now you can seek for something else which is more true. So all these things. So behind hate is love. Hate is only a distortion of love.
He says in Savitri, our errors are his steps upon the way.
That's right. That's what he's saying. So all these things which are there, they are not fundamental realities. Evil is not a fundamental reality. Darkness, unconsciousness is not a fundamental reality. They are conditional manifestations. They are conditionals. They are shadows. The shadow doesn't exist by itself. It can exist only if the truth is there. So that's what he's saying here. So through all these limitations, it lead you to God. Okay, so disfigure shadows of something in the divine, and by turning them to the divine, he finds that of which they are a shadow and brings it down for manifestation in life. So it is through the human exceeding itself and opening itself to a supreme plenitude. Supreme plenitude is found only in the supermind, in the supramental. Supreme plenitude is not there in the other lower planes. That the divine must manifest itself here, since that comes inevitably in the course and process of the spiritual evolution, and therefore he will not despise or blind himself to the Godhead because it is lodged in a human body. Manushim tanu mashritam. So the divine is there in every human body. That's a psychic element. It is there. And why human body? Even in a stone, the divine presence is there. Okay, so beyond this, the limited human conception of God, he will pass to the one divine eternal, but also he will meet him in the faces of the gods, his cosmic personalities, supporting the world play. Now look, this is very interesting. Supporting his world play. So all these gods which are there in the overmind plane of consciousness, each one has got a function. There are divine doctors, they are twins. There are divine carpenters, there are divine masons, all these are there. Vishwakarma, okay? So, Twashtri, the divine carpenter. So, all these are real. Just like in the physical world, you need all these people, the divine also needs them for manifestation, for constructing the universe.
Are any of them negative?
Pardon?
Are any of the gods negative?
No. But there are beings who are negative, but they are not gods. And also at one level, they are a mixture of both, a little bit of divinity and a little bit of the negative aspects. Okay. Remember also that the asuras and the gods, they come from the same source. The two sisters, Diti and Aditi. When the division occurs, one goes down this way, one goes down this way. So, Diti is the dual principle and Aditi is the single principle. Aditi is the mother of the gods. Diti is the mother of the asuras. They are cousins actually. So these are very deep truths which you have to understand. I refer you back to one thing which will also explain this. Nolita made a statement once that Sri Aurobindo's disciples, okay, many of them are asuras. So if you understand this properly, exactly what we discussed just now, then it makes sense. Every human being has got divine qualities, but he is also starting from imperfection. And if that imperfection is egoistic, the nature of the asura is only ego. He has the equal powers of the divine. But the divine is different from the asura in this, that the asura is using it for his own ego, for his own purpose. That's the difference. Otherwise, capacity-wise, there is no difference between the asura and the divine, gods, the gods. In fact, that's why our scriptures are saying they're constantly fighting with each other, which is again symbolic of human beings fighting the evil in themselves. So, we'll come to the end of this will be to him, his cosmic personality supporting the world play. Supporting the world play. You need all these. Detect him behind the mask of the vibhutis. So, vibhutis are not avatars, but they are human beings with special divine qualities. Sri Aurobindo lists Vivekananda as a vibhuti. He lists also Napoleon as a vibhuti. History, if you read, you will find a lot of criticism about Napoleon. Okay, he was very egoistic and he was waging war all the time. But Sri Aurobindo finds that he had a work to accomplish. Okay, unification of Europe, partly he did that. So Sri Aurobindo finds these are vibhutis. Though they are not avatars, but they represent one aspect of the divine with a certain power and a certain function to fulfill in the world. Vibhutis. Embodied world forces or human leaders. Now he is giving you the sequence. Human leaders also. Reverence and obey him in the Guru. Worship him in the avatar. This will be to him his exceeding good fortune if he can meet one who has realized or is becoming that which he seeks for, and can, by opening to it in this vessel, the human vessel, of its manifestation, himself realize it. For that is the most palpable sign of the growing fulfillment, the promise of the great mystery of the progressive descent into matter, which is a secret sense of the material creation and the justification of terrestrial existence. This last bit he is putting in different words, but his meaning that the supermental race will one day become an actual fact in the physical world. Look at the words. Progressive descent into matter. Descent, D cap, M cap. Okay? Mm-hmm. It's a secret sense of the material creation. The material creation has been created, the material world has been created with the intention of slow divinization through evolution. That's what he's saying.
Excellent.
We end it today.
Thank you, Ranga. Namaste all, and thank you. On Friday, we will have the essays on the Gita at 6 p.m. and on Saturday, Savitri, 6 p.m., same location.